The John LeBang Show has been known to make people laugh, sing, think, scream, throw things in rage, and generally lose their minds. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings, Earthlings, and alert the media. The John LeBang Show, 250th episode, is now broadcasting worldwide. Greetings, my friends, and welcome to our celebration of 250 hours of sonic vibrations that have been broadcast through this microphone, transmitted out to the world, and ingested through your ears, down into your brain, to cause chronic brain cell rejuvenation. And over this next 60 minutes, we're going to be delving into where we've been, a look back on the past. We're going to also be enjoying the moment. We're going to take a glance into the future, and we're going to be dealing with your questions, ladies and gentlemen. It all started back on YouTube many moons ago, back in 2012. With our first, you could say, season of the John LeBang Show. 13 episodes, 14 to be honest with you. There was one that came a few weeks after our final episode, and we kind of added it into that first year. And we're trying to emulate a lot of our favorite and most inspirational and influential radio talk show hosts in that first year. We were trying to be a little bit like William Cooper, little Rush Limbaugh in there, and we were trying to work all that out, and it was a very big growing year for us. We did those 14 first episodes, and we had to take a little break to kind of reset ourselves. You know, it takes a lot of time to build these shows, and we weren't exactly ready to put in the commitment to be there all the time, every time. So as that first season concluded, we decided to revamp the show a little bit. We then went on to another season a little bit later on in the year when the election came back around. And we'll get into some of the things we covered in that time, because that's where it all really started chugging along for the John LeBang Show. And even though this is episode 250, we have really had much more than that if you include the music hours and all the banger specials that we had. And I'm thinking about all this stuff, how we're going to present all this to the audience tonight, as there's a lot to go over when you're talking about all the way back to 2012 when we first started. We've covered 2 presidential elections in depth. We've covered the Dark Knight shooting, Sandy Hook, Fukushima, the Ranger Ridge standoff, the Ferguson and Baltimore riots. We've covered the Boston Marathon attack. That, in fact, was a big turning point in the John LeBang Show, because we had to go strictly for the radio after that, because we had some issues with Google and YouTube, which have, since the Boston Marathon attack, our numbers were cut in half, cut in quarters, cut down to minuscule numbers compared to what we were getting. And that's because we hit on a very sensitive topic, and we were doing some very, very, very hard-hitting investigative reporting. And we hit some buttons that some people did not want us to hit. We've covered Jade Helm, the Paris attacks. What about the mysterious disappearance of the Malaysian airliner? Do you guys remember that? And the mystery that was behind that? We've covered Benghazi, spent many, many weeks on that one. We had some really in-depth coverage that pretty much showed what happened there, and that the mainstream manufactured news wasn't exactly doing their job in reporting. We've covered some local issues like the Flint water crisis. We've also talked about the rise of ISIS from the very beginning. We've also covered the Syrian conflict, the Las Vegas shooting, Ebola. I mean, when you take a look back at all the things we've touched on in the past 250 hours of conversation, there's no other broadcast out there that covers the stuff as in-depth as the John LeBang Show. There are some pretenders out there, but we're the real original. Some of the big subjects that most of our listeners are familiar with right here on the John LeBang Show are climate change. What is happening with climate change? Is it a natural event? Is it something man-made? I mean, in these past 250 episodes, we've covered the AC/DC saga. Axl Rose joining the band. We've had some in-depth coverage on that as well. Some of the other topics we've covered is the robot future, the rise of the robots and the Google-nators, and how in the future there's not going to be any jobs because, well, the robots are going to take them all. So all the people that were complaining about $15 an hour aren't even going to have $0 an hour when those robots are commonplace. Of course, another huge subject that we've discussed in great detail on the John LeBang Show is Obamacare. The good, the bad, and the ugly. And as you know, there's not much good when it comes to Obamacare. So we've mainly covered the bad and the ugly. And since the Republicans don't have the courage to repeal it or do anything with it, looks like we're stuck with it for at least another year, probably 2, probably 3, and probably forever. And when the American people are bled dry, maybe finally the Obamacare will be dismantled because there will be no other things they can take from you. We've covered taxes, a huge story that we were covering there for maybe about 6 months. Our friend out there in Africa who was part of a secret society, and part of the ritual was to get circumcised, and they botched the circumcision, which led to an infection where he had to have his schmeckle removed. And then the advancements in schmeckle surgery allowed doctors to provide him another schmeckle. And they added it on, and now he's fully functional. He's got a child. And so we talk about a lot of great things as well, like that. I mean, that's a great story. It didn't start out well, but it turned out to be a great story. Some of the highlights that, and I mean, this is maybe one of the biggest, and I've had some big highlights, being picked up by Bubba Army Radio, just the massive amount of listeners that we're getting. But I think the biggest highlight of my career up to this point has been the time when I found out Michael Savage, the national radio talk show host, was listening to my broadcast. In the past 250 episodes, the banger ran for president. How many of you remember that? The amount of guests that we have brought on the show, and especially this year, but all the guests. I mean, what else has happened? How about us being interviewed on the Vinny Eastwood show? He's a premier internet radio talk show host. He's one of the big guys. And he thought it was a good idea to have me on his show. Jonathan Rios, 920 WON The Apple. He had us on his show this year. I mean, some of the big moments of this year, too. I mean, we'll have to get to that in the next segment because we are running a little short on time here. But we've had a lot of huge moments this year, and we're going to cover that in the next segment. But when we look back at the 250th episodes that the John LeBang Show has produced and disseminated, I'm humbled that I'm where I'm at today. I couldn't even fathom how much I've covered. I haven't even brought up a quarter of the things that we've talked about on this show What are some of your favorite things that we've talked about? Some of the things that caught your ear? Some of the big memories that the John LeBang Show has produced? Let us know in the comments section, or you can email that to us at jlebang@live.com. But let us know, what are some of your most memorable moments of the John LeBang Show? And how long have you been listening to the John LeBang Show? Are you a new listener? Are you someone who has been with us from the very beginning? Were you there somewhere in the middle? Where did you first hear the John LeBang Show? These are all things that are part of why we're here at our 250th episode. And as I wind down this first segment, as I count down the seconds before we have to take our first break and get to our sponsors, I am utterly humbled and amazed at everything that has gone on. From all the stations that have, when you look back real quick, we were on YouTube. Then we got picked up by one station. It didn't work out. We got then picked up half a year later by Alien X Radio. We went 8 months on that station. Then we got picked up by 2 more stations, both in the United Kingdom. The following year, we went from 3 stations to 13 stations. And this year, we've doubled our stations. It's incredible, folks. We got to take a quick break, folks. More on the flip side. As we continue on, we might bring in Shady or some of our friends as well. We're going to hear from you as well in the next segment. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Hey, you. Yeah, you. Listening there. Don't go anywhere. The John LeBang Show is going to be right back. Just ask the hillbilly.
That's right. Right after this.
What about me? Maybe next time.
CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services. Their billers and managers are all dedicated to working for you to increase your profits. For more information, call CRRM at 248-579-3805. CRRM, CarePoint Billing Services.
You're listening to the John LeBang Show.
Join the radio revolution right here.
It's better than some good Thai stick, man. Yes, I would like some too.
We're going to open up the lines to you. If you know our secret banger hotline number, you feel free to give us a call, and we're going to get to your voice here just in a minute. Before we get to that, I'd like to have all our guys in the studio, Shady, Abu, and everyone say hi real quick.
Hey, what's up?
How y'all doing?
Hello.
They're back there working really hard each and every week to make sure this radio broadcast is performing at top quality.
Get on with it, John.
This year has been an amazing year with our 200th episode in February, being picked up by Bubba Army Radio soon after that, doubling our radio stations that are carrying the show just from a year ago, and even better, and this is really living in the moment for myself,
blah, blah, blah.
We are now reaching 100 times the listeners we were just a year ago. We're going to open up those phone lines because we got the first ones coming in. We're going to take it right out to our affiliate in Tampa, Florida, Bubba Army Radio. Kevin, you're the first one on. What say you?
Hi, John. This is Kevin Hawley from the Dump Tower in beautiful Newport Richey, Florida. And my fiance has a question. She wants to know whether or not you wear underwear.
That's TMI, John.
I'm going to answer that, Shady.
No, don't do it. It's TMI.
It's not that TMI, all right?
Come on now.
Yes, I do wear underwear. Thank you for the call, by the way.
God.
I do wear underwear. It's funny your girlfriend would be interested in my underwear. I'm not sure why that happened. Maybe she's secretly in love with me. I'm not sure, bro, but that's okay.
I like the fruit of the looms myself.
I do wear underwear. I've tried many variations. The Fruit of the Looms. I didn't really enjoy them,
just right.
And it just they didn't fit right. I've tried the boxers and the briefs, and neither one of them really fit my style. The boxers, they would ride up your butt crack, and you always have to adjust them, and you you always have to adjust the front too because you're always like hanging down.
Oh God, you have to
in
tell
the
them that too.
in the regular briefs, on the other hand.